everyone, welcome to another stream. If you could possibly let me know if the music's good volume, not too loud, great. Yeah, so we'll just see if there's a few more people to turn up. But today, basically, all we're going to do is talk a little bit about the project, and that is going to be converting this, which you'll see in a minute, a FormBot 0.1 to a Double Dragon. And the Double Dragon is an iDEX printer, so that's two tool heads that are independent in the size of a V0, more or less, and I'll explain why I say that in a second. Yeah, that should be pretty cool. That will basically give us a fun little project, challenging in the sense of like getting all of that to fit in this size printer. Just say there's links in the description to the project, if the GitHub and so the Printers.ants website, which is where I found out about the Double Dragon along with the other ones. So yeah, we might as well just get started, I guess, and then if anyone joins while I'm doing it, I can speak to them. So yeah, if you have any questions, put them in the chat. If there's anything wrong with volume wise, let me know. Yeah, and we'll just get started while I try and work out how to switch this back to, there we go. So this is my FormBot V0.1. As you can see, it's a little bit custom. We have a different tool head as well, which you'll see in a second. Got the LGX light in, nozzle scrubber, stuff like that basically. So the Double Dragon will use the majority of these parts. Well, it will, yeah, my Double Dragon will use the majority of these parts. We're not going to be using the LGX light. We're going to use two identical extruders, and I'm going to do a couple of extra little bits for my build to make it a little bit different, which I'll talk about in a minute. So yeah, let's just basically get going. So obviously the 0.1 had a printed top hat. The Double Dragon as it stands on the GitHub is an adaptation of the 0.1 style, so that uses a top hat in this style. So we could potentially do that and use some of these parts, but my plan is to yeah, not use these parts basically. So we'll just undo some of this just so it's a little bit more flat pack. I've just got over here some hex trays that I'm just going to put everything in. So I'll be reusing the hardware, but the printed parts I'm just going to put down side of me in a box so that I can go through and take magnets and heat inserts out and stuff. We'll have all new printed parts. I've still got to decide on the colours. What I'm not going to do for this build is to buy any more filament, so I've got basically a relatively limited selection or choice. That being black, red, grey, same grey that I use for the Trident. I've got some status glass filled ASA, which is black also. So I haven't decided whether to do like the traditional boron black and red, or have something a little bit different. A little part of me wanted to do like a stealth printer and have it all black, and maybe if I would do that, to have like 2 tones of black, so we could have a standard black ABS and then the glass fiber, glass filled ASA. I'm not sure how much of a contrast they would be with that though. But I do sort of also want to have the red in there, because this build is obviously, well, I should probably explain. The way that you get a little bit more space with the Double Dragon is you actually open this up so you can see. So this extrusion here, 200 millimeters, and what you basically do is you replace that with a 300 millimeter. So you're basically going to make the printer about 100 mil wider. So you're not going to, it's not going to be a huge iDEX printer, and I'm going to be, for the moment, staying with the 120 mil bed. So in practical terms, that it's not very practical, but it's just really for the fun and enjoyment of building it. So I thought it would be a fun project, because originally this was going to be just a rebuild of a 0.1 into a 0.2, the latest revision. But I've already got 2 other Voron V0s. I didn't need a third exactly the same, so I thought, let's do something a bit different. Let's do a printer for ants. So yeah, that's how I decided to do the Double Dragon. But we kind of also want to do some stuff that's a little bit different, because otherwise it's, you know, a little bit repetitive. So the plan is to also do the Tri-Zero mod into the same build. So we have a Double Dragon with a Tri-Zero bed setup. And what that basically is that we will have basically like the Trident style bed frame, so that we'll get actual leveling from the printer. I haven't actually at the moment printed any parts, mainly because I haven't, again, as I say, haven't decided on colours, but also just looking at the printed part options and seeing which way to go. So yeah, that's current plan. I'm open to any suggestions on printed part colours, or if you know of a particular mod that would work with this, then I could have a look at that. So that's the panels out of the top hat done. Put those up there. So yeah, this is the one-piece top hat, so that can go out the way. Let's take the door off so I also had to have this little extension on, and that just made it so that the umbilical cable and the PTFE wasn't rubbing on the top. So again, this can all come apart. We won't be using any of this. So the plan for, whoops, that one's lost to the floor. Plan for when this is going to be streamed and taken place is hopefully, fingers crossed, I want to do it sort of every other week. So I'm not going to try and aim to do stream every week, because I sort of want to try and do other things in between as well. And also I've ordered parts, but I've got to obviously wait for parts to get here. So yeah, so I'm going to try and aim for every other week. I think that should be doable. And this, so for those of you that have been on my channel a while, you'll know that I did attempt an iDEX printer before. I say attempt, I did technically build the printer. I just didn't do like a series of videos or live streams about it. But this, I plan to be a complete live stream build, so I will try and do everything on stream. So this, I'm also planning for this build to have, hey Richard, nice to see you. This build hopefully will be hand tool heads as well. So I've already got one EVB 36, I've ordered another, as well as the U2C board. So we'll go through the whole of the can setup for that. Now, because this, I'll say initially, is just going to be the 120 size bed, because that's what I've got. Because the problem with changing the bed to what is essentially a very non-standard size is that means, like, I'm going to have to get custom print surface, magnet, bed, heater. So for the time being, it will be the 120. But I see no reason why that couldn't potentially be something we look at in the future. But what that will mean is that we probably won't be doing anything to do with duplication or mirror mode, because you just won't get two heads on the board, on the build plate at the same time. I'll take that stuff off later. So yeah, so for the time being it will be like a standard size bed. But maybe I'll look at doing something different in the yeah, so basically this stream is basically like a preparation stream, if you want to call it that. It's just about, okay, can I get that out, but it's going to be a pain. Disassembling this, which is the donor printer, and then what that will mean is that I can then take time to clean the rails, check the bearings, stuff like that. could put a 10 by 10 yeah. Want me 120 by 2. So there are, like, they are available, I'm aware of that. But the problem is, I've only seen the aluminium bed. So you've then got to find a heater. Magnet is obviously, magnet is cut to size. Then you've got to find the flex sheet as well. So it just seems a bit over the top to start with, or because this is predominantly a self-funded project, and what I mean by that is that I have been offered a couple of things that are sponsored, which I will go through when we start building and when I actually receive them. The only thing I've actually received to date at the moment is, which I've paid for, is the extrusions. But I've only actually received, well, I've received enough to do it. I've ordered a couple of extra because I want to try and do an extrusion top hat as well. So I've actually not received all of the extrusions yet. So I'm probably a little bit late on ordering stuff, but I wanted to make sure I was ordering all of what I think at the time I need. So we'll see. I also plan to use, in some cases, some alternate printed parts. Like, I was never really a fan of the panel clips, 4-on panel clips, but since using the annex style ones on my Trident, I really want to do those. So I know there are some 15-15 ones. I should now have found a carriage part that will allow me to use the more recent Dragon burner, which is, again, should probably have said, this is going to have the Dragon burner tool heads. Up a bit so I can move these panels. Oh, the ones that you had linked to before. I didn't realise they were made by her, which is great because they do. Or are you talking about some? So you can see here I've got this custom deck panel and then the mid panel. I would like to do more custom panels for the Dragon, Double Dragon. It all depends really on what I go for. Otherwise, part of me wants to do just like a black and red build. I know that I've got some red acrylic that I can use for the panels, but still undecided. But yeah, so the plan for this build is every 2 weeks ish, I'll say. But I also will post across social media and everything like that. I've also got a Discord server, which isn't hugely active. It's just a place sort of to post stuff easier, I guess. What part order size second head and extrusion? So, because I'm gonna, so you, I think the GitHub does suggest it, but we're gonna have an MGN9 rail with two carriages for the x-axis, and because I'm going to go for the tri-0 setup, I'll obviously be using that MGN7 rail that we took off, and I've purchased an additional MGN7 rail. The other tool head board, I'm going to be, well, there's some bearings. The project needs them. Extruders and drive motors, I'll call them, are hopefully being supplied. I've never done a black and red. So obviously my 2.4 is black and red. I think that answers your question about what I've ordered for myself. There's not an awful lot of stuff that you do need for a straight double dragon. It's only because I'm doing the tri-0 that I've obviously had to order another rail. I mean, technically, I have got a rail that I could cut down, but I thought it's just easier to get an appropriate size rail, which in this case is a 250mm MGN9. I'm actually trying to think what other parts I've ordered now, because well, I spent a couple of days putting the list together. Probably easier for me to say what I haven't bought. So power supply, I've got control board. I'm going to use a Spider 2.3. I've got the drivers. Raspberry Pi I've got. Yeah, I mean, I think one thing I haven't ordered, which perhaps I should have, is fasteners, mainly because I've got quite a few that I think I should be okay, but also because it's like I can get fasteners locally. Like the extrusions, actually, because they came next day, because I've ordered them from the UK, from a UK supplier, which I will link. Basically, the description of this video probably won't have a lot of product links or product details in, because I'll save that for when we start building. But yeah, they're a UK company, and it was just easier and probably cheaper to buy it from them. What else? So again, like I cut that out as well on the laser cutter. I've got, because I'm going to be doing the tri-0 leveling, that will obviously be three more stepper motors, but I've got those. It's going to be belted these, so I've got belt, got pulleys, but there wasn't a huge amount of stuff I did actually need to order. It was mainly the stuff like the rails, basically, and the bearings, because with most boron kits you get enough of the bearings just to do your build, whereas hardware you get quite a lot of extra, but not of the bearings. So but the plan for this LGX Lite actually is to go on my tool changer. I'm trying to convert that over to the board. In this is currently a Gemini V3. I think it's a V3. Yeah, applied Gemini V3. Put in there. And then this is also the SD card on this. The SD card slot on this never worked right. So this has got the Wi-Fi module, and it worked so much better. Like, loads up straight away, connects straight away. So I would definitely I would be hesitant to recommend the board. If you had the board, I would get that thing, that Wi-Fi thing. And then this has got flipper expander board in as well. I think how this attaches, how easy it is to get off. Yeah, because this is different, I think I have to take the actual LGX off. Yeah, so it's the Fly Gemini V3. So this is just the umbilical PCB. I actually really like these for a stock boron V0. I would say it's no-brainer to have this. But because the double dragon requires extra drivers, the reason to go with, I forget something, because it needs extra driver ports. Obviously you need a new main board that's capable of that, so that's why I'm going with the spider board, and also because I've got one. Oops. Trying to keep costs as lower as possible really on this build. Right, let's move this back a bit. Trying not to tip too much of the LGX part. because we changed the thickness of it basically. So things are going to fall out, I'm sure. Take hot end out. And okay. The only problem with this LGX light is that you take 2 screws out and it's basically just wants to fall apart on you. I'm not too bothered if printed parts get broken here, because this is not going to be used again. Right, so that's the hot end out. And we can undo these 2 screws that are holding LGX in. You could theoretically do this conversion without having fully disassembled a V0.1. I'm only taking it apart because I want to like clean the rails and move, and obviously I've got to move rails anyway, so I might as well just take them apart, take it all apart. Okay, so this hot end was like the first sort of, after the Revo, when they started doing these ceramic heaters and with a V6 body but with the Dragon mount. Take some apart. Yeah, but so the plan is to have, I won't say exactly what we'll be doing for the tool heads, but they're going to be pre-built extruders, should I say. Just so they're a bit more consistent. So these little 3010 fans probably won't get used again. We'll leave them up here, I think. If I knew where box was, this I would put that back. So that is currently undecided. Obviously, if you haven't looked at the GitHub for this or know anything about the Double Dragon, and I'm only going by what I've read, so I might be wrong, but the reason it's called the Double Dragon is because it had Dragon hot ends in. But because I want to use Dragon burner tool heads, that's where my Double Dragon's going to come from. I don't necessarily need to put Dragon hot ends in, although I do really like them. I've got, like, most of the printers behind me, apart from the tool changer, have got Dragon hot ends in. But if anyone has a suggestion for hot ends, I think they are going to be the most expensive part of the build, for sure. So, I'm going to release the tension on the drives, the motor drives, and then I'm going to carefully move that over there. What I want to do is get this carriage off so that I can put the LGX back together. Yeah, to loosen it. I was actually looking for what hot ends to get. Kind of want to not go for Revo, because I have Revo hot ends in tool changer, which sort of sounds like an odd thing to say, because then I'd have nozzles and everything, but I'd rather have to only buy nozzles for that printer, whereas I've got loads of other V6 nozzles. I think Dragon hot ends are probably in the lead in terms of preference, but we'll see what other options come up, basically. Get these Maker Bean nuts. These are right. These are actual proper Maker Bean nuts rather than some of the crappy ones you get. Right, let's put this LGX back with this thing for now. I have got the other plate that this bit replaces, but I can't honestly remember what I've done with it, so should have put this back together like this. Not sure what I could put. Actually, I do really like the LGX light. I like the lever action for the gears, how you got like the 3 positions. Yeah, so that will at some point be going on the tool changer for these parts. Might as well take the belts out. So what we should be able to do is reuse this or these lengths of belt for the extra axis we're going to essentially put in when we convert this over to an iDEX. And what that will actually use a thing called a Mark Forge kinematic, which basically, if you ever looked at the I don't even know what the it was a D-bot that I converted to an iDEX that used a similar kinematic. But yeah, all the detail there should be a GitHub link if anyone wants to look at the details of the build, of the design I should say. And I know, so I've joined the Discord for where this build Double Dragon gets talked about. Grab another. Thank you. And I saw that the person who designed the Double Dragon was using his again, so they might update some of the parts, etc. No, that's not a guarantee. That was just what I'm hoping. Excuse me. What I'm hoping, I guess. These little M2.5s are a pain to get. Get it out right away. That's on my in there. Yeah, let's unwire the control board and get that out of the way. That's going to be a lot easier to do once we do. So yeah, this has got clipper expander in as well, because there was just not enough ports on Gemini, for me anyway. Anyone else in the process of building another printer or updating a printer? Head out. Power. I expect that one of the other things I may have to order is stuff like cable and that to do cable runs that I want to do, because I tend to want to use the proper colour wire and everything for my personal builds, but doesn't really matter. Don't really need to keep track of it. Although this board may go into one of my other V0s, so that I can rob the Raspberry Pi out of one of those. I have a V0.2 self-sourced speed. So interesting. How do I word this? Was there a reason why you went self-sourced over kit? I know I'm cheap, right? So I tend to want to get what gets me the best value. From what I've seen, that's kits rather than self-source. But I guess with self-sourcing, you obviously have freedom of getting some nicer components. I'm just curious what your thinking was. The only thing I would say about, like you say, this looks interesting, that, as I said earlier, the Double Dragon is a 0.1 update, so it doesn't have like the styling parts for a 0.2. I'm going to try and make mine look 0.2s, but I don't know if that will be entirely possible yet. And what I mean by that is like the Trident style skirts and the extrusion top hat. up there. Right, let's try and get this up. At least with a double dragon, because we're going to be basically making it a little bit bigger, we'll have a bit more room for electronics and wiring, especially underneath. Although because we're putting more Z-axis and more Z drive motors under there, it might not be that much room, but we'll see. So this V0 had a few little extra things. So this had the screen that's used on the V0 display, but didn't have any controls. It was just the display. And I also had a servo powered brush. So that was another reason why to use the clipper expander. They should all be out. Yeah, this is another reason why I like the umbilical PCB. This makes wiring, for me personally, a lot simpler. So if you haven't got one of these, I would definitely recommend adding one. Cut the cables down. What I also plan to do with the Double Dragon for electronics mounting is to use DIN rails, like the larger bourons, because I don't like, well, let me rephrase that. I don't want to use VHB tape stuck mounts. Not there's anything wrong with VHB, because these have like stuck and stayed on perfectly fine. I just like the idea of the DIN rail mounts. Okay. So let's take this out. I'll screw across to the floor. Highly recommend. But I also recommend going for a can tool head board as well, because they are pretty easy to set up, in my opinion. They're easy to set up, saves on wiring. And they're pretty damn cheap. Like the EBB boards that will be going into this were like £10 each. Down there. So yeah, I didn't order extra like heat inserts either, so I want to try and salvage as many as I can from these printed parts. Obviously I've got spares anyway, so we'll see if that's possible, but that's the plan. Extrusions off. I think someone commented earlier on the bomb, how reasonable bomb. So if you was to look at the Try Zero mod, you can do that. That is incredibly cheap. I think you don't need any extra extrusions. You can repurpose the original V0 bed extrusions. This has actually got a Kirami bed. I don't think you need a lot else either. A little bit of paint again. So I did attempt to use no drop nuts in these extrusions, but most of the printed parts broke. So like that one broke as I was taking it out. So that's something I'm going to have to look into, is the better, see what other options there are. The pity you can't get like the hammer nuts in a 15-15 size. Right, let's find a place. We've got to try and keep as much of this hardware as we can. Has anyone got any thoughts about printed part colours? So the grey that I was considering using is the same grey that some of my Trident is printed out of. Which I really like, but it's finding a nice filament to go with it, to pair with it. Okay. So we're going to need all of these extrusions. What I'll also be able to do, because I'm going to do this sort of every couple of weeks, is take the time to label, have a look at the extrusions and label them, etc. Start taking stuff off. Have to make sure. Throwing stuff all over the place. The bearings in a separate hole as well in the hex tray. So what I'll want to do is to go through all of those bearings, make sure they're okay. I've ordered a few extras just in case. Old Evermore out the way. So yeah, I'm glad that I'm sort of doing this as a whole separate stream, because this is obviously a little bit time consuming, and but I want to check parts that are going back into the build. So you wouldn't have to do a complete disassembly if you were not doing all of the updates that I'm doing. Okay. Just take them off, I think, to start with, and then I... Yeah, so for anyone interested, I did add a link to I purposely chose a cheap V0.2 kit from Formbot. Put a link in the description on AliExpress in case anyone was interested in potentially purchasing a kit to do a printer for ants build. One down there. It is an affiliate link, just because it helps me out a little bit, but feel free to use whatever link works best for you, basically. Okay. Let's gantry stuff off, I think. Slow a bit, get that out of the way. So the bed actually in this scene had a dodgy thermistor. So what I ended up doing is drilling a hole into the aluminium bed, so it was only in the aluminium bed, didn't go all the way through, and putting the thermistor directly into the aluminium bed, and that actually means that you can get slightly more accurate bed temp readings because you're reading the actual aluminium temperature and not the pad on the bottom of the bed. Because I'm out in sort of a garage, you can tell when it's a cold morning because the bed would always measure a real low temperature, but because it's actually reading the aluminium. Might as well give the old my Discord server another plug. If you're interested in joining, there's a link in the description. It's not overly active and it's mostly me posting, but anyone is welcome to join. And what I want to do is for it to be a place where people can just post about random projects they're doing. Doesn't have to be a 3D printer. Could just be an electronics project or anything really. So let's disassemble this. So we'll be replacing the X-axis rail with an MGN9, and that's obviously going to have two carriages on, and it'll just be, it's a slightly wider rail and the carriages have better preload, so you should have slightly less wobble in the tool heads. I haven't decided yet whether to do senseless homing on this build. I don't have a problem with it personally. I think it's relatively easy to set up. Having said that, because this is going to be an iDEX and we're going to be the positioning of the two tools relative to each other is going to be more important, I think end stop will be better. But yeah, haven't decided yet. I actually went away from end stops on the tool changer when I more or less when I first got it. Actually, I put end stops on rather than use senseless foaming. Forgot about that group. obviously be careful not to let the carriage run off the end. When I obviously come to build this, I'll break the assembly into parts when I do the live stream. I won't try and do like a mammoth full build stream, mainly because I don't think I could stream for that long, but it also means that it's easier to sort of follow along. That was a so let's take these apart. Yeah, so this was actually my first Voron. I think I built this. This wasn't built on a live stream. I think I did this like over a weekend, quite a couple of years ago now. Now, including this one, I have 5. So it can become quite an obsession. I don't expect there's many of you watching now anyways. I think Adam at Vector 3D was going to be streaming. I think I noticed that as I was getting ready to come on. Over there watching his stream, which is cool. Adam's a good guy, I like Adam. Doing his Darwin build for Joseph Prusa. In fact, if I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be watching him too. So. It doesn't look like I used any Loctite on it, so lucky. And disassembled. Let's get some of this. That was the servo brush that I had installed for nozzle cleaning. Worked actually quite well, to be fair. Okay. whatever. Take some of the other part. We're trying to salvage the magnets. Poke the pins out of these T-connect. Free this through the they're a bit stubborn. Cable out. Try and get these printed parts didn't really work for the no drop nuts. If I take these out, then I should be able to turn the printer over, start or bottom. Right. I think I might do, in terms of the filament colour, perhaps print some samples off, maybe print some Voron cubes off in the potential colours I want to use, to see how they look next to each other, see what I'm feeling. Try and take some stuff off from the bottom. Okay. So yeah, this is actually Voron V0.76 673. Serial number. So cool. If anyone does decide to do either a double dragon or another printer for ants, that's definitely something that I'd be interested to hear about on the Discord server, or just leave a comment. Interested to hear what you're doing. So I'll probably find screws for a couple of days after. Maybe we repurpose that into something, but not quite sure what. The like an old car, keeping track of its number. Okay. So I'm gonna hopefully be able to get power supply off this acrylic panel, because this was VHB tape. Like I say, when I was talking about doing the DIN rails rather than VHB tape, it's not an issue with the bondage of the tape. The tape, I mean, that's been stuck on there since I built it, so it's never. Right, they've got bolts. Never been an issue, so. Gotta go with a different method for the build. Have a screws on. If you haven't checked out my other social media links, there's links in the description for Instagram, X, etc. Haven't got a Facebook page anymore. Yeah. Yeah. You can see here where I've done the mains wiring that I used the appropriate colours for my country. A lot of kits don't tend to come with, they tend to, which is understandable, I guess. You can't send specific wiring to everywhere, but yeah, it was just a preference of mine, really. You have the correct colours. The electron. what I think I would have preferred to have done when I built this was to use more Wago connectors. It wasn't really a thing when I was building this, to be honest. Plus there's not an awful lot of room on the V0.1 to do it, but definitely something I would advise. Have the space rather than putting too many wires in through terminals. Got leave that all together. Pull that out here. Uh, 5-volt inverter thingy. I guess most people don't need anymore because main boards come with 5-volt regulation. Might have used ring type connector. Using. I'm not sure if the music is that audible to people watching. This is music from someone I watch. Well, yeah, I watch him occasionally. Does funnily enough, does Minecraft videos. xisumavoid. Hopefully I won't get in trouble for playing his music on. So that's the 5-volt converter. Useful for other projects, I'm sure. Other electronics. That's bed. Let's take. But yeah, a link in the description to the album if you want to download it yourself. Careful not to cut the wires. So yeah, this is also I'll be using this power inlet again. Obviously not this printed part, but yeah, put that in the bin. Right. I might be able to take these. So this was the Z end stop. Take both of these out. Get the spot. Good enough. Made. Have to just okay. Oops. So I did actually, when I had to put the thermostat into the bed, did actually change over to Wagos on the bottom of the bed. So I should be able to take some of this assembly off. Of course, the origami bed comes with Wagos, so that's why the Wagos are here. Okay. Right. Oh. Right. Yeah, definitely quicker than putting it together. probably more messy taking it apart than putting them and building them, that's for sure. I think one of the main problems I'm going to have when I'm building this, because it's a bit of a mod, it's not going to be much of a structured manual to build it. You can see here where I ended up putting the thermistor, the actual aluminium bed. I did screw with the screw bit, because the thermistor on the bed had a dodgy connection, so I ended up putting the screw, but just well. I've got another bed, not another heater, but I'm probably going to reuse this one for now. Let's try and get the top nut. You'll just have to listen to me talking about how I'm doing it. I'm just holding the nut basically, and then unscrewing a very long screw that was used, dropping my Allen key at the same time. So because I'm going to go with the Tri-Zero mod, we will actually be rigid mounting the bed that won't be on springs, because we'll have the ability to properly level the bed. And what I mean by that is that we'll have 3 points of adjustment, so like we do with the original bed, but it'll be automatic. So we'll be able to use some sort of leveling probe. What I'll also excuse me, what I'll also be able to do is show how to use the Ember Prototypes camera for tool alignment. So I use it, or have used it, for my tool changer, and it's basically a camera that so we line up the nozzle hole in the nozzle onto the crosshairs, and then the software it's a calculation that it makes by, we tell it the coordinates of those two nozzles in this case, and it will tell us what the offsets are. And I've done that on my tool changer, which is obviously 4 tools, and that's very accurate. Like, the multi-material prints I've done is very very aligned. Probably could have left doing these, but if I do them now, it saves me having to do them later. hopefully once I've got this disassembled and some parts arrive, so I guess the next part will be dependent on when those parts arrive, although I've got the frame parts, so I should put the frame together, but then see. So it'll either be in 2 weeks time we'll put the frame together, or I will obviously post. But I actually haven't, because I haven't printed any parts yet, I've got to work out what parts I've got to print and what colours I'm going to use. Too many choices. Last one now. Don't be too wrong. I think I oiled off. And the Kirian bed should better come off. Then it's just basically unbolt and extrusion, really. Okay, that's the heated bed 3. Well, where you going? I'm going to try and keep those separate because they were LDO hardware rather than V0.1, but so the LDO Kiriomi bed comes with Fuegos and owning the thermistor. Quite handy. Out. I think if I weren't going for the Pro Zero mod with the Double Dragon, I would definitely have kept Kiriomi bed. I much prefer it over the extrusion based one. Got that free from the motor, so I think I'll take that off. Oh. Much as I can anyway. A little bit work out overhead cam for when I build the double dragon. Potentially I will move my board there and build it over on that side of the room. I think that will potentially be a little bit easier. Do I think take this and I can get the how this goes back together. Take this. Just unscrewing the nut. So this is got this anti-backlash nut attached to it as well, so we have to be careful that doesn't throw itself across the room like that. That off. Everything like that. Well. Can actually tell some of these printed parts when I started using sort of better printers, because I didn't print all of the purple parts at the same time. So this was originally built with the extrusion bed, and this part is printed so much nicer than say the A and B drives. That is actually the purple I've got. The other, which I was considering using with another colour. But I haven't stopped. This might not type. Certainly looks like the motor's got a warp. Deformed the actually deformed the part. Okay. Guess it's a good job that given this one a bit of a facelift. I had actually considered doing one of my other V0s just because the extrusion that I've bought matched that extrusion better. I thought it would look better, but not that different. Because this got sort of a slight, almost powder coated texture to it, whereas the other extrusions are anodized. There. Okay. Come on. Take this. Remember the order in which things went together on, yeah? Try and get the Kiriani head out. Go on the floor. Gets the belt off and I can on the camera chip. It's actually where longer, cheaper Allen key comes in, because the wearer ones with that extra piece of sleeving on do tend to get in the way a little bit, whereas these cheap ones are long and thin. The hardest thing about trying to build on live stream is making sure that one can see I am working on it. I'm trying to get the best view and setup I can. But when you're not trying to do this be like best YouTuber there is, it's kind of defeats the object of like buying all this posh equipment, if you're only streaming to 100 views, doesn't really make a lot of sense personally. But I want you to see best that you can, the best that I can get you. I'm working on it. You may also try and do some of the. No, you might have seen me and Matt do a couple of live streams. Might try and do some of the Double Dragon on like a dual stream as well, because it's nice to have someone to talk to when doing this. So yeah, this is the Kiriyami bed. This is an LDO Kiriyami bed kit. That's box. Lightweight, more rigid cantilever style bed. I think I need to take these ones off first, so that then that'll get. I'll put on these somewhere. So this box, flat box. Keep them all together then. The ones with the rails on will got Loctite. Before Loctite was probably before I had access. Loctite. Before I bought any. Okay. So yeah, these ones yeah, see there, it's got like a little bit of a texture. These ones are also done coated after threaded. Because if I grab one of these, it's very smooth size all being cut. So they're slightly different, but you can't really tell when you they're next to each other. They're not that noticeable, and they're not going to be sort of next to each other. If that makes sense. We're replacing the primary ones we're replacing are the ones that are that make up the width of the printer. So they're not really going to be next to each other. See that they're different. take this. Oh, got our power supply stuck to the back of it. So yeah, that was my custom panel. Basically just engraved on the side, cut the logo out, then cut the logo out on purple and then tuck it in. I want to do custom panels on as well. I'll try and work out how I'm going to get the power supply off the bottom of that. I think it should be possible if I just slightly heat it up to get the adhesive a bit more pliable. Okay, we should now be able to undo this screw. Get the cable chain. So leave those wires in. Probably take this printed part off, but we can reuse the wires that are really getting there now. The bonus of doing this on live stream, this disassembly, if you want to see it fully put together on V0.1, you can run this in reverse. So we've got rail stops on there, so they ain't going to come off. And actually take these rails off. Because I'm going to be cleaning everything and putting this back together, I'm not too fussed that I'm, like, these were really well aligned. I'm not that fussed that we're basically framework and work out, get stuff off. There are no bolts up these. One off. Got some base plate. Remembering that there's one stopper. Put that one over there. join this live stream now and say, oh, you haven't got far in the building your V0. I mean, the rail's probably definitely a bit of lubrication now. Been on there for quite a while. See, I've given up caring about the nuts. That stuff. Nuts to take out of this extrusion. What I will do is actually check profile of this extrusion head, not the, they're both 1515, I mean the end profile, because I know there are different no drop nut files depending on sort of extrusion it is. This one's it's like an elongated U basically, whereas the new ones, if I grab one, got more of a T. A little bit. So, have to keep an eye on that. To get the no drop nut printed, there'll probably be a few different versions that I'll need to print. So that is pretty much disassembly of the donor V0.1 for my double dragon build. I'm just gonna continue doing these extra, getting all these nuts and everything together. I've got to also disassemble the A and B drives, but again, this is just a matter of taking the parts out. And it's just going to be an opportunity to check bearings, make sure they're all okay, and where necessary, look to replace bearings, and then just give everything a clean basically. So all the rails will need to be cleaned and then re-grease. That's just good practice really. If you're going to be putting them through while you've got them apart, you might as well do it as well. Okay? Whereas if I was just going to extend this, I probably would have left them on, not bothered, but well. So yeah, thank you for everyone who did stay or who came along and watched while I was disassembling a printer. I will obviously keep people up to date on social media, the links in the description, and on the community tab of my page, of my channel, just to let you know when parts come in and when next part of this build series will be streaming. But things don't tend to take that long from AliExpress for me. I could potentially say that we're going to build the frame in like 2 weeks anyway, but I will schedule it all and put all of that on there. If you have any suggestions about colours or buttons, because I still need to buy those, either put them in the comments or feel free to join my Discord server, which is the link again in the description. Yeah, and then we'll just see where we go. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.